Hi, I'm Sarah Nickel. I'm with the new Wichita State Molecular Diagnostic Laboratory. I'm also faculty at Wichita State in the Medical Laboratory Sciences program. Additionally, I'm alumni, just like you, from Wichita State. I graduated in 2006 with my degree in Medical Laboratory Sciences and was able to work in the field in a virology lab for the past 14 years, where I learned a lot of skills that helped me bring this lab to our Wichita State campus. The new molecular lab is actually located off of campus due to concerns with COVID. We wanted to make sure everyone felt safe and that they didn't feel we were a risk to anyone that was on campus. So we're actually located on the Spirit campus. When we first started looking at bringing this lab to campus, it came about due to all of the CARES funding that was available to bring up more testing capacity. The new National Institute for Digital Transformation reached out to me because they heard that I did molecular testing and wanted to know how we could bring something like this to Wichita State. The National Institute for Digital Transformation is similar to NIAR, if you've heard of that, the National Institute for Aviation Research. It's a new branch that they're trying to bring up to where we can bring more innovative things to the other industries, not just aviation. So we're the first big thing to come out of that, and they've helped build everything about this. They have lots of resources with research and funding and know how to do all those wonderful things. So with their help, we partnered with some research institutes and looked at different equipment that was available to do testing. One of the most exciting things that came out of it for me is looking at saliva for viruses instead of using all of the swabs. I'm sure you all know that the story goes, the brain stab, the swab that goes way up into the nose is kind of our gold standard for laboratory testing for viruses, and we're trying to change that. So we're very fortunate here at this lab to have been able to bring up saliva testing, and we're really excited to look at the potential of using saliva for other respiratory viruses, potentially even influenza. Very privileged to have an opportunity to make a difference. When all of this virus started to come out in our community, this is something I used to do for the hospital. We used to have high capacity testing for viruses, and it's no longer in the Wichita area. It doesn't exist. In the laboratory world, we've gone to much easier testing, which is great. I can take a sample and I can stick it on an instrument, and then in about an hour and a half, it spits out an answer and tells me if it's positive or negative. So when they first approached me with this idea to bring up high volume testing, they asked me, how do we make that happen? And it's not with that kind of instrumentation. You can't do 100 tests in an hour when you have to put them on one at a time and wait for a result to come off. Also, out in the clinical world, they were hitting lots of bottlenecks with supplies, which are still going to be an issue for us here at the Molecular Diagnostic Laboratory, but we have the ability to use multiple different types of supplies here. So I think the thing that excited me the most when I was approached at doing this was just the ability to actually use all of these years of experience that my bachelor's degree provided me, that my master's degree helped sustain in me and teach me new things. And then all of my teaching with my students, I was able to go out and get all of those graduates that I had personally taught in a classroom and bring them in here and really teach them how to do something like this. How do you turn nothing into a lab? And for me, it's a brand new experience. I've learned so much along the way. And when I walk down the hallway at the end of the night, I'm always just really proud to see how far we've been able to take this from this empty old building into a true laboratory. Another really cool thing that we're doing at the Molecular Diagnostic Laboratory is working with the robotics and innovation teams through the NIAR campus. And they are coming in and actually watching our processes and helping us analyze ways that we could do things more efficiently, trying to take that manufacturing, industrial manufacturing concepts into the clinical lab and look at our processes and say, how could we create a tool that would make that easier? How do we create a tool that would prevent errors in the lab? How do we just create something that would make it easier for the person in the laboratory? So it's been really amazing. There's already been about 5 different things that have been created for me to be able to sit down and do my work in a much easier process. So it's been really fun partnering with that team in the robotics engineering department. This equipment that has been purchased for use for this COVID testing, we've bought a lot of equipment. So there's a capacity that we can reach. It's very, very large. If you've seen it on the news, it's up to over 4,500 samples a day that our instruments can handle. Now, of course, we have to have staff and we have to, be able to handle that intake and outtake of samples. But what's exciting about that is these instruments, they're not specific to COVID. These are molecular instruments. I can test for anything from gene mutations to other infectious diseases on these instruments, all using very similar techniques as to what we're doing with COVID. So currently we're staffed pretty nicely to be able to hit pretty high capacities for COVID testing. And we're really excited for all the research opportunities that are going to come in the end with this. So our laboratory is staffed almost completely by Wichita State graduates. We also have a lot of applied learning students and other faculty members that are all working together to make this lab happen. So this new lab is benefiting the university in so many ways. One of the ways is by employing our graduates. So we have employed currently about 15 MLS graduates as well as students in the applied learning environment. Additionally, this lab is helping the university. We've been able to do testing for the university, primarily athletics. Athletics was our first partner in all of this. They helped us go through a lot of our technical issues, figuring out exactly how to make this work for the community. So our athletic team has access to the laboratory and easy testing for their athletes to allow them to be able to stay practicing and competing. Additionally, the way that Molecular Diagnostic Laboratory is really going to help our university is by providing an outlet for true clinical testing. Being a university that doesn't have a hospital attached to it makes it very hard for the College of Health Professions to do accurate, real research. We do research in a lot of areas, but to do clinical testing, you need patients and you need samples. And so this laboratory will allow us in the future to do research studies that use true laboratory testing techniques in the medical environment, because we now have access to all of this equipment. And we need to be able to do research to sustain the lab for any time in the future. If we have another pandemic, it would be very easy to switch gears from research back into clinical testing to provide high volume results.